Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Colin Cadmus Podcast. This is episode number 4. I have with me Aaron Ross. Aaron went to Palo Alto High School and Stanford University. He started his career in mergers and acquisitions. He had a 2-year stint in product marketing, then became a co-founder of eLease, which shut down and liquidated after 2 years. He then joined Salesforce.com, now commonly known as Salesforce, where he spent what I would call the 4 years that changed his life. Aaron became a tremendous success at Salesforce, developing their outbound sales approach, which he calls cold calling 2.0. This sourced over $100 million in recurring revenue for Salesforce, where Aaron went on to lead corporate development and acquisitions. Aaron spent a total of 4 years at Salesforce and drove the company through the exponential growth that has turned them into the SaaS behemoth that they are today. With shares trading at over $250 on the New York Stock Exchange, I am a proud investor as of last week. Aaron went on to write his book, Predictable Revenue, which has sold 200,000 copies, and founded his company, Predictable Revenue, which has grown to over 60 employees and $4 million in revenue. So he's not just a teacher, he's also an operator. The sequel to Predictable Revenue was From Impossible to Inevitable, called The Growth Bible of Silicon Valley. He also has 9 kids, so he's got his hands full. Aaron, it's been 9 months. Although he plays it off like he's not that busy, but I have to imagine 9 kids.
No, I don't do that. Yeah, I definitely, yeah. In fact, in the books, in the Impossible book, I said, I'm always tired, physically, mentally, emotionally. So yeah, no, it's a lot, but it's fine.
But it charges you too, right? Like I know I'm not a father, but I have 2 nieces and a nephew. And like when I see them, it charges me in a way.
Yeah. I mean, you can use the word charge. You could use the word motivate.
Yeah.
Kind of push. There's push versus pull. A lot of it's push where I have to do things. And yeah, I am excited to do things too. So it's both. I would say, and then again, I think I'm very open about how motivational having a big family is to have to make money, kind of like a push, and the pull being excited to, it's just, I mean, I'm very blessed. I have a lot of everything. There's a lot more fun and love and money, but there's also a lot more everything else, which is like drama, and 9 times more kids means 9 times more fun, but also 9 times more issues, challenges,
more kids, more
stuff to deal with. More kids, more problems. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's been
more kids, more everything.
It's true. Well, I can't wait to have some someday. I love my nieces and nephew, but I'll tell you, the nice thing about being an uncle is you get to clock out whenever you want.
It's true. It's true. But again, it's kind of like the same thing. You say the great thing about being which is an employee is you have to clock out versus when you're a business owner.
It's very true.
So,
the irony there is like I went out to start my own consultancy to kind of get more freedom. So I guess it's when you really start hiring employees is the big difference. Right now, I get to kind of swim in my own lane whenever I want.
Yeah, I mean, you got to choose your freedom. Like there's people who say, "Oh my God, I'm not sure if I have kids or more kids, I have to give up my time and money." I'm like, well, yes, you can have the freedom of having more time and money. I don't know. It's kind of, or you could have the freedom of having more, for me, like love and other things. It's like a different kind of freedom. So when you're an employee, you don't have the freedom of time as much, but you have the freedom of being able to have mental clock out.
Yeah.
As an owner,
means a lot.
Yeah, as an owner, you have more freedom.
So much.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you just got to choose. You like chocolate or vanilla, but they both have their pros and cons. Like, and being an entrepreneur, as it is, like, again, especially if you ever read the Impossible to Inevitable book, being an entrepreneur of any kind, a consultant, others, there's a lot of challenges that come with that, a lot of benefits and a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I'm sure there's some people out there, I don't know them personally, who, I know there's a lot of them who say they're on the beach making money from, I don't know, wherever they are. It's all passive income, and there's probably some people like that. But all the entrepreneurs I know, whether they're making lots of money or not, it's a heavy emotional load to go with the heavy benefits that come with it.
Yeah, it always seems to be those folks who are in e-commerce who seem to have these lives that you're just like, how are you on the beach and you're rich? That's always some weird e-commerce business that these guys have. But
yeah, well, and I'm sure some have that, but a lot of it is also posturing.
Yes.
They talk. There's people who try to expose like the dark gurus where, there was, I can't remember who it was. There's a friend of mine. I know people who were in this, and They said that there's some person promoting online courses, but of course the person didn't actually create the course. They hired someone else to even create the course. So I don't know. It's all like
there's a lot of that out there, and
yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
see it in the ads on Instagram constantly.
Yep, and some people I'm sure are real, and some people are not.
Yeah.
And I think so. For one of my premises, I remember this 10 years ago, was premised around, as the internet gets bigger and there's more noise and there's, it'll be an unending trend in the future of more technology that leads to more apps, more channels, more noise of all kinds. And anyone can claim anything on the internet. So what'll happen is you have more information and more education out there, but you can't filter the junk from the good stuff.
Yeah.
So people are going to lean more and more towards trusted authorities to help filter through all the, not the trash, just all the stuff.
Yeah, there's just a lot of noise. Everyone's trying to do it, which I guess is a good thing too, that people are putting themselves out there and trying to make money. But you have to know what you're reading and who wrote it or who's teaching you what. But I guess.
Well, are you trying to make money by really helping people, or are you just trying to make money, whether or not you're extracting money from people?
Right. So creating some illusion of value and just having a call to action.
Just to get the check in.
Yeah. I've seen those ads. I almost feel like I know who you're talking about just because it annoys me on Instagram every time I see it. But I've clicked through those and look at, so I don't pay for it, but I click through, and the ones that feel like they're just a ripoff are the ones that have these very long landing pages that are selling you, and you're kind of scrolling through and they're like teasing you as if you're about to get the piece of information that they told you you're going to get. And you get all the way to the bottom and, they're asking for a credit card or something. Like it just feels very, it feels like I'm being trapped into one of those things. But anyhow, I want to, for the audience, season 1 of this podcast is focusing on success stories. Season 2 is going to get most likely much more tactical. But I wanted to bring in
about season two. Ooh, look at that light. Focusing on, if you had one season on success stories, about the next season on failure stories.
That's actually not a bad idea, particularly with CEOs. The challenges, I don't know, many people want to talk about them. I say this all the time. It's like, we hear about, people raising all this money, people having acquisitions, but we don't hear about like the 90% that fail. And I actually think that's where we can learn the most.
I don't know. Actually, I think most entrepreneurs, the thing is, like, once they're successful, and I don't know about the ones who aren't, once, it's like, okay, I'm happy to talk about my failures because it's the past. I'm not traumatized.
If it's the past, right.
It's harder to say the things I'm failing at right now. So that's, some people may be, some not so much, but I think the past failures, people, because then it becomes like a badge of honor. Oh, like Dan Martell, he's like, if you don't know him, he's an entrepreneur from Canada. I don't remember exactly some of the wins he's had, but he does SaaS Academy. Cool, interesting guy. And he'll say that, he was and sorry if I get this wrong, Dan. He was a drug, when he was young, he was a drug addict. He had 2 businesses fail or 3 businesses fail, and was able to get clean and create now he's sold 1 or 2 companies or 3 companies. And it wasn't rags to riches. It was, trauma to success.
Right.
And I mean, most people have some version of that.
I think we all do, look back. I think most of us do. Maybe many don't want to share that side of it, but yeah.
Or you kind of overlook it. Sometimes I think if you just forget about some of the things you deal with when you're younger, or time passes, like, oh yeah, there was, or you
connect the dots to what it actually did good for you. I know I've had plenty of struggles in my life, and they've all, I think, turned me into, a better person over time.
Yeah. I mean, and who hasn't, right? It's like, I don't know if there's an entrepreneur, like, can you think of someone who comes to mind who seems like they had the perfect trajectory, right?
At Elon face Musk, value, my first CEO, but once I got to know him and hear his story, you're like, wow, this guy's been through a lot.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about popular ones like Elon Musk, obviously totally, lots of challenges in many ways. I don't know about Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, but I'm sure they had the shit they had to deal with.
Well, let's talk about your story.
Okay, great.
Let's, I mean, look, I know that many people listening to this may have already read your books, right? So, and we also want to make sure that whoever hasn't read your book is going to read it. So we're not going to give all of the secrets away today.
True.
We're not going to give all the secrets away, but what I'd like to talk about, because, we spoke 9 months ago, we dove in real tactically on the broken SDR model, and we had some good back and forth there. That content was a big hit. I think people are still watching it. I get messages all the time about that. But what I really just want to get to know you a bit more and your backstory. Obviously I've read it, but I'm sure there's things that are not in the book, right? That were struggles you went through, etc. I'm curious to kind of just start back quickly from, you went to school in Palo Alto, then you went to Stanford. What was the plan coming out of school? Were you planning on getting into sales? You went into mergers and acquisitions. I'm not sure exactly what you were doing there, but what was the game plan coming out as a Stanford grad?
I'm not really sure. I remember vaguely, because back when I was in high school, I don't remember ever people really asking me much like what I want to do with my life. I feel like that's a really common question. That may be too common for kids, like, what do you want to do? Or like, have a plan.
And they say something like, be a firefighter or a doctor. Like, no one knows. I
don't know. And so I don't feel like that was that as much a thing for me. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be like an astronaut or a pilot. But by the time I was, and I had fun just programming in high school. I did a couple of summer internships, summer jobs. But so I went to Stanford, is like, I knew I didn't want to do programming, and I wanted to do engineering. I just felt like that was more of my thing. I didn't really know what type. I picked civil engineering because I feel like, I don't know, environmental civil engineering, that would be a good market to get into.
Sure.
Didn't even know what that kind of job would look like. And by the time I graduated, I'd done, again, a couple more computer programming internships. And I also did a college painting franchise. And that went really well. So I think by the time I graduated, I was like, well, I didn't really want to do engineering. There weren't that many jobs. Mm-hmm. And I found out about like investment banking and consulting, which also I remember sounded more interesting and paid a lot more money. So like, I want to do those, like learn about business, because I didn't really, I'd done some things. I'd had a couple of small projects, and thinking back.
So I was going to say, had you at this point in your life, have you had any sales experiences, whether it was, selling snow cones at a park or like anything?
Yeah. There's one when I feel like I was in 9th grade. We a friend and I, we went door to door, and for, I don't know, $5 or $10, painted the house numbers on the street, on the curb. That's with spray paint and like stencils. And then,
that's a great idea, because you can hit every house in the neighborhood and no one wants to be the one who doesn't have it.
Yeah. Some people, I don't know, it's nice. And then, I did some programming at some point later in high school for my father's company, like some projects. And this is back, of course, like the MS-DOS type days.
Yeah.
That was like, it was just more like for fun. But I don't remember what year, when I was at Stanford, I worked at the newspaper for maybe a quarter, the Stanford Daily, selling ads. I don't even remember why I took that job or how. And funny enough, I worked there with Gina Bianchini, who, I don't know if you've heard of, Mighty Networks, is the CEO there. I don't even remember anyone else who worked at the paper at that time. And I remember like going down to restaurants and selling $50 ad placements for the paper. I don't think I was that good at it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't think I really got much training.
You were in high school at this time?
No, that was early college at Stanford. Okay. But I think the major thing was doing, and so one more thing, I remember back when in high school, getting magazines and Popular Mechanics, and in the back of those, they had mail order, like how to make money at home. This is before the internet, of course, right? I'm almost 50. So with like 80s, being interested, like, there's ways to make money at home. Never really did much with it. But the main thing, I think it was different doing a painting franchise later in college for a summer, college pro painters, where I had to go knock door to door, and they would do some lead gen for me. I'd knock door to door and sell painting projects, and I had to hire people, find painters, train them, and I actually did really well with that summer. So that was still, again, just kind of like figuring it out. There really wasn't any systems. Like it was good to work with a franchise, but I didn't really know what sales was. The word, I didn't really understand all that. I was still more, yeah, I don't know, just never really thought about it, didn't understand it. Like marketing, sales weren't really terms, it's still more coming from more like a programmer side of things. And
But you
Find
clearly
myself as
had
an
an
engineer.
entrepreneurial spirit in you.
So yeah, sort of. I mean, again, you have like the types. There's a spectrum, right? You have Gary V, or people who by the time they're 20 have started 3 businesses already.
Right.
And okay, I did a couple little things, like the curb painting. We probably did for like 2 weeks. I don't remember.
You probably
And I
needed
did
money
some
for
programming.
something, right? And you figure
I don't know. I
out,
probably
here's a
made
way
like
to do
50
it.
bucks. I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened there. And so I didn't have the kind of like natural drive where I was just like work, figure it out, but I was opportunistic. I was like, okay, hey, I'll try this out for a summer. I'll try this out for a thing. And so again, by the time I left Stanford and doing investment banking and, I still kind of in more of like an employee mindset of like doing jobs out there, and wasn't really focused on this. I'm going to go start my own thing yet. Now, again, back at the time, we weren't surrounded by the internet with like the profusion of opportunity.
Right. And information, right? To even learn about the opportunities.
Yep. And overwhelm. So I can't say like today, I have teenagers and things, and they get overwhelmed by like, what do I do? Either I have too many interests, or I don't know how to pick one, or I don't know what I want to do. So different opportunity, different challenge. I don't envy them now. I do, but I don't. I'm kind of glad I'm past that. Definitely don't envy I have a teenage daughter applying to colleges. I'm like, I don't miss that at all. I don't want to go back. I'm done with that. So I think
just the social pressure the kids have today is so much more extreme. I mean, it almost like it was barely existent when I was a kid, right? It was like the social pressure was like, if you don't go to college, like your parents can't brag, and like you're kind of just not on par with where you should be. But now it's like the social pressure is digital, and everything a kid does, they're worried about the judging and the negativity. There's no question that that's going to influence the decisions people make. And I just hope that it doesn't lead them to a place of unhappiness, right? Because you're making decisions for the vanity of what it's going to look like rather than, what's inside. That's when I think about my nieces and nephew. I just hope they make the right decisions. And I'm so glad, like when I was in college, there was no Instagram and there's no TikTok and there's no long documented thing of all the stupid things that I did in school, Like, thank God I got in before that.
It's like they have, but the thing is that they have the teenagers today, and I've got some, right? And amazing opportunities like never before, but the pressure. So it's kind of like the same thing, more opportunity, but more challenge at the same time.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's better or worse, it's just different.
It's just different.
And I don't know how I would have dealt with today, but like that constant digital, it's I don't know. I got 9 kids. I'm like, I don't know.
Are they all over social media? Like, are they doing TikTok?
The older
and
ones.
Stuff?
I'm like, the older ones totally. That's like, and my younger ones, like how it's tough because how do you not shield them? How do you kind of help them learn how to deal with that and the pressure? And when do you give them a phone? Because if you wait too long, like I'm relatively anti-phone in general. It's even I love mine because I can do things, but I hate mine because it's just annoying.
Let me ask you this. So my sister's got I have 2 sisters. One has two girls. The other one has a young boy. So they're all very young. And what I've seen is that the iPhone has sort of become like the piece of candy to shut them up. When they just absolutely will not behave, there's the one cure all in every scenario, and it's YouTube. Is it the same with your kids? And do you allow them to? Do you use that sometimes when you're just like, enough is enough? Here's YouTube.
Yeah, sometimes we don't like doing it, but like especially if we're sick, tired, or so there's just I will say that we avoid doing it as much as we can. And just like in general, trying to like I think as a parent too, it's hard because when a child is crying and you can kind of tell if they're hurt versus they're just trying to get what they want.
Yeah.
And they basically are crying to get what they want. Let's say our 3-year-old. We don't have the terrible 2s. We get the terrible 3s. And I'm like, I don't want to pick you up because I do, but I'm just going to reward this type of crying.
It just incentivizes the behavior to happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet I have other kids I need to get the door, and I have it's not like I'm one person with one child and I can just sit there for an hour while they cry.
Well, that's why I was interested to ask you, because I would think if anyone's giving into that, it's got to be you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but not so much with usually the phone. So, but sometimes. So it's more like it's a conscious decision. Like, I just got to pick my battles and the places where I put my energy, and I'm going to pick you up. Or it might be like, I think pretty rarely if they're like if they're crying and maybe they got hurt. For me, it's like, okay, you got hurt. I don't want to try to stop you from crying. I'll just kind of let you cry it out, kind of like have the pain, and it's okay to cry and it's okay to get hurt.
Yeah.
And not necessarily try to distract you, and unless there's something else going on.
You need a balance there. Yeah. And sometimes
it bothers my wife more when they're really hurt. And we each have our areas where we get triggered, like the things that we don't really care about and things we do care about, things we're more that we're emotionally strong to, and the things that we I guess get triggered by. So I would say that it's hard. I can see how easy it is because it's stressful when you have kids, and to kind of like just basically pacify them with YouTube. So, again, once in a while when you really need it, but if it becomes too much of a habit, because it's convenient, then, it's just dangerous ground as well.
It is. They get addicted to it. Then again, I'm fascinated by some of the things they learn by watching YouTube all the time.
Yeah. So I think what we aim to do is, if it's YouTube and things like, even for movie, we do Friday night movie night, because I think that is where too, like they see everyone with phones around them. And like, to some extent, I would love to not have phones at all for the young kids around it all, but it's just not practical with like teenagers and us, and like business. I got like business and stuff in like around the world in some ways.
Right. Yeah.
So, which, not saying that all because it's like sexy. It's just like, well, it's time zone differences and there's like shit going on I got to respond to sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but on YouTube, like, it's amazing the things you can learn. Or like we stick to like classics and musicals as much as we can for movie night with the younger ones.
You got any kids watching Blippi?
Actually, one of them we discovered Blippi. So not so much lately, but a year or two ago, like Blippi, because there's like an airplane one.
Yeah.
Yep. Airplane.
That guy's worth $25 million for making YouTube children's videos.
Man. So again, the thing is, it's amazing that the stuff people can do with.
Right. Yeah.
So there's this other separate danger. But yeah, so I think the amount of stuff that they can learn is incredible. Plus all the amount of like crap that you can find that just like waste your brain.
Have to control what they're watching. I think that's the key.
To some extent, yeah. And try to teach them. Same thing with apps. I'm in the zone of with like 11-year-old and 8-year-old, and we're gonna do apps. And okay, Minecraft, we do that, great. But there's a game called like there's a category of games I call slot machine games. Have you Subway Surfer?
I don't play any video games. Nothing.
Okay, well,
it's a bad habit I don't have.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bad habit. It kind of depends, because
I have like an addictive personality though. So if I get into like gambling or playing video games, like I'll do it all the time, and so I just steer clear of that stuff. I
gotcha. Yeah, I get that. So, well, I'll give you an example. So Subway Surfer, you're basically just dodging stuff. It's the same thing you do just over and over again. It's just you're getting coins.
Got it.
So there's no.
It's like a Tetris concept, somewhat.
Yeah, it's not even as puzzle solving. It's more that basically the point of the game. It's almost like you're just doing it to get coins. So I look at that. I call it a slot machine game. It's a popular one, so I picked that.
Do you see that as good or bad for the kids?
Bad.
You don't want them doing it. Yeah.
No.
Just not learning anything.
That wasn't even learning. Or Minecraft, where like you're building stuff, you're exploring. That's cool. And then also what's fun is like a couple of the younger kids will play with a teen brother Minecraft. So okay, that's like, it's a good family bonding. So it's not like a magic answer, but the goal is for them to do if they're using screens for like learning or having fun with the family or the people, and not just kind of like distracting themselves from being bored. Like there's this aversion to being bored. Like people, especially older kids, like when I was a kid, I got bored a lot
all the time.
And today it's like people just
read a book. Go read a book.
Or I play by my
play outside.
So it's like now there's just this like aversion to being. I can't be bored. It's like this. Oh my god.
Well, our brains are programmed now with all the digital. I mean, I don't know if you saw that Netflix special. I forget exactly what it was called, but they talked all about how all these apps are just. It's fascinating, by the way. I'll have to send you the name, but they go into the science behind how these apps are designed to addict us, right? To get us to just keep coming back.
Oh, yeah. Is that the social experiment?
That's what it's called. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, these kids are getting
make some money.
This type of brainwashing very early in the years that their brains are still developing most. And that's what's scary, because like I'm addicted to the iPhone and I didn't get brainwashed that young. And so they're going to be even worse with it. But yeah, I guess it's just a reality. Anyhow, for those who are listening who have kids, you just got 25 minutes of parental advice from a guy who has probably more kids than you do. Let's pivot a little bit. We've got about 20 minutes left. I want to dive into, so you got out of school. Sounds like there was no clear plan to be getting into sales, which is basically how all our stories start, right? We usually just stumble into this somehow. You did a couple jobs, right? You founded a company. Maybe talk just briefly about founding Lease Exchange and how that led into going to Salesforce, what that transition was.
Yeah, well, I remember I was at a company and I applied to Stanford Business School. And one of the questions was, what did I want to do with my life? And actually, I never really thought about it or really took that seriously. And I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur like my father. And that was the first time I remember, thinking, I'll start a company. And that led me to, within a few weeks or a few months, finding someone and coming up with an idea to start a company called Lease. Well, at the time, equipmentleasing.com.
Okay.
Lease Exchange. But so I think it was really just having that kind of moment in my life of like having a different view of what I wanted to do. And once I started to think like that, is when I started to see opportunities. So having said that, I was like late 20s. And so we got together. He was in the leasing industry. I was not. And we kind of got some stuff going. Ultimately, we raised some money and some venture money. And again, didn't know how to hire a right technical person.
Mm-hmm. Were you both non-technical people?
Yeah. But the main thing is, once we got the company up, product up, had some sales going, small sales and partners, and we had a VP of sales. And that was when, there had this thing called Goldmine. I didn't even know what it did. And if sales weren't working, again, I was kind of like this, well, the old mistakes around like, do we have enough people doing it? Are they making enough activity? And they're basically signing partners.
And so you had no sales training or anything at this point. You were really trying to figure it out on your own.
No professional experience, except through what I did at the painting franchise. And I had some contact through sales at this company called Pandestic, where I was doing product marketing. So I worked with salespeople.
Yep.
I it was more, I ended up creating a lot of material to help them better explain what they did. So I didn't really know how sales was working at that point. We didn't really have contact as much in the sales process. And that company was dysfunctional in its own way anyway.
So you figured we'll hire a VP of sales. They know what they're doing.
Hired a VP of sales, hired some people. Yeah, for the most part, he was a good guy. He hired some salespeople. It really wasn't his fault when it wasn't working, because it was all new, right? This whole internet, all this internet thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. Go back, if I had especially the From Impossible to Inevitable book, which is really more of like a growth Bible, or even Predictable, right? They both have a lot of lessons I learned from making mistakes. But I just didn't know, and but led me to, okay, I got to learn how to do sales. Right? I'm going to get a sales job, because you can read as much as you want, but you don't really learn something until you do it.
That's where that clicked in your head. Like you're like, all right, we're trying to build this business. Clearly, if I knew sales better, like we maybe would have done better here. That's what I want to learn next. Is that kind of how that got it? Yep. And how did you, just to cover on like the ending of Lease Exchange, because I think this is helpful for people who maybe are running companies that are struggling or having problems, or they're early. When did you decide to throw in the towel? Like what made that? Because that's a big decision, especially when you've gotten, I think, as far as you have. Like, did you just run out of money?
We ran out of basically ran out of money and had no choice. Yeah, that was.
Got it. Okay. So
it ultimately got kind of rebuilt and converted by my partner into, today it's called eLease. So it's equipment leasing.
Oh, so it still exists.
So it would, yeah. We got, there's no, I don't think it wasn't even the same company, but he basically because that's what he did before.
Okay.
It would have been a good small business, but not. Basically, the company was kind of like a lending tree, but for business finance, and probably could have been done well. We just didn't have the right team and experience, and hindsight.
Good lessons
But
learned though. But so now
good lessons learned.
2001, 2002, and you find Salesforce. Now at this time, just as a reminder for everyone, like how well known was Salesforce at this time? Because today it's the biggest company like in the world, right?
Yeah,
Everyone knows
no.
who it is.
In the Bay Area, I think it's pretty well known because they were about 150 people and doing like
Okay,
25
so it's a big,
25 million.
They're on their way. They're successful. They're
Yeah,
obviously not
in
the
the Bay
behemoth
Area.
they are today, but so you came in, they have about 100 people. And so they hired you for director of corporate sales. What was that role exactly?
They hired me as a sales rep.
Okay.
Which wasn't even as quota carrying. That was the basically inbound SDR answering the 800 line. So that was the only sales job they had. And I remember thinking they had a sale, like an AE job, inside sales. It was new and they just filled it before I was like, all right, well, I'll take this job and just make for a better story, but it's going to work my way up from like really was like the bottom job at sales. There was no more junior job at Salesforce than that.
So that's similar in a way to my career. Like I spent the first 4 years doing something completely different, then decided to get into sales and had to go all the way down to the entry level role to get in there. But then you grew pretty quickly, right? As you got in there, what was that journey? I know in the book you explain, like, you figured out this cold calling 2.0 idea and sort of really brought that to life. You probably did a lot of internal selling and getting people on board. Obviously, all the details are in the book, but how did you, if you want to give away a little bit of what's in the book, like when did that click for you? How'd you come up with that idea? What was the big vision?
Yeah, I mean, and advice I would say is for people who want to make a difference in their career. What I did was I just had confidence that if I went to Salesforce, I could figure something else. I could figure something out, right? Some way to make a difference. And so taking the most junior job there was like a stepping stone. In my mind, like, okay, I'll take this job, I'll build back to something else. And then I'll learn what I need at some point, then I'll leave to go start another company.
Right. It's a foot in the door at a good place.
Yeah. And that was more from mindset than prior success. I just kind of believed in that I could do it at that point.
Yep.
And so at Salesforce, the first job, I just for 3 months or so worked really hard to get great at that inbound SDR job and put big numbers up and kind of out hustle other people there. And it was, wasn't a hard job to figure out. In 3 months, I was pretty bored and was proposing. But one thing I had done, and I really recommend to anyone starting at companies or companies when they onboard new people, was I started at Salesforce. I also went around and I, for the first few weeks, just talked and met people at all different functions: support, development, a new president, sales, marketing, just to kind of get to know people around the company and see how different parts of the company worked. And I think it's really a missed opportunity for both the new employee and a company when you have someone come in a sales job and you're just like, okay, start selling, sell, versus a chance to get to know more of the company people. And a lot of those relationships came in handy later.
Yeah, they definitely.
Whether it was, but one thing I saw and I noticed was this challenge around, we were going up market enterprise and we were hiring field salespeople and building a product. We didn't have pipeline for it. So that's kind of my talking to people.
No outbound at this point, right?
No effective outbound. We tried hiring an external firm.
Yep.
Salespeople. We hired a bunch of experienced field salespeople who were supposed to bring in their prior relationships. They didn't. Like zero, like one.
Yep.
Almost
that's
zero.
That's usually how that goes, by the way.
Yep. Yeah. And we had a couple junior people. They were switched to doing outbound calling. It was just really scattershot. And even I didn't even know what was happening, but even I could tell they were just like flailing around. There wasn't really much direction. So I was like, well, I don't know what the solution is, but I know I could do better than whatever's happening if I just put some focus on it. And I luckily had a VP I worked for who got the approval to do that for like 3 months or some amount of time. Cause
so you had this idea, you pitch it to the leadership and you say, can you give me some time to prove this out?
Yep. So yeah, it took 3 or 4 months to kind of get the systems going, figure it out and figure it outbound. I remember, reading a bunch of books like Vito and I don't remember the names of them at this time. And none of that worked for me. And just kind of feeling, you know what, I got to just figure something out from scratch. And that was kind of the cold emailing and referral approach. And that started in, being an engineer still really is mentality, and just kept engineering that approach over the course of that year. Is 2003. And so first I was doing it myself, and I'm glad because that really gave me a lot of the ground up details and tactical stuff of inbound and outbound. And then they said, all right, well, Aaron, you can do it, but can we hire someone else to do it? So we hired a second person, trained them. They did it. And then it was a year later, basically, and then after months, I'm just like, oh, this is working. Why can't we just move this along? Realized kind of how long it could take to get kind of internal buy-in from an executive level to invest in something.
Yeah.
And a year later, and there was actually like a leadership change too. They said, all right, let's grow this from 2 people to 12 because it's working. So it took a lot longer.
They wanted you to be in charge of that.
Yep. So again,
so that's your first opportunity to build out a sales team.
Yeah, and that was learning kind of partly how long things can take in a company to kind of prove, what kind of proof level do you want, and sometimes you have to wait for like people change, and just have to be patient while you're putting up the results and being willing to like do the work yourself to get your hands dirty without ego.
Right.
And I think that's something I do recommend. Even taking that first sales job, went from being an internet company CEO to like this junior rep. I just wanted to learn, and I needed to, and it wasn't about the title. I kind of did what I needed to do to get where I wanted to get to.
Right.
Now, luckily I didn't have kids or family at that time where if you have to make money for the family, that limit I couldn't have done that if I had a family at that time.
Right. All right. So that's your push into Salesforce. You come up with this huge idea. They start making an investment. It obviously grew huge. You brought in over 100 million recurring revenue. What led you to, and for everyone listening, again, there's way more detail in the book, so buy the book. What led you to decide it's time to leave Salesforce?
Well, the short answer is, so I was in the M&A group after 3 years. I built the outbound team for 3 years, moved to the M&A group because it was new. Worked for a guy named John Samorjai, who was a great guy, still there. And after about a year, they wanted me to go to Ireland. They said, hey, do you want to go to Ireland to fix the EMEA, SDR outbound team? And I said, I don't know. Wasn't that excited for different reasons. I'll be excited if I get a promotion, I'll do it. And I said, So it just was kind of like time to move on, where I would say they wanted me to, they wanted me to leave. And I said, yeah, I wanted to leave. So it wasn't really like they fired me. I didn't really quit. It was just like, it's just time to move on.
They gave you an opportunity you didn't really want. And I guess you're fully vested at this point. I imagine stock options were vesting on 4 years back then too.
Yeah, my stock options were very small. It basically was enough to pay for some divorce debt.
Oh, because you did, I guess, you got in there.
When I started.
One thing that cleared up here is you got in there, they were already pretty big. In my head, I was kind of imagining that it was earlier.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the job I took had I got promoted like a lot in 4 years. I don't know.
Because they're growing so fast, right? Like, so
they're
actually
growing,
for perspective, they have 100 employees. Roughly where were they when you left 4 years later?
Or it was about 150 when I started, and there was like 2,000 in 4 years when I left.
Insane. Yeah.
But also I was like, pushing from SDR to prospector to manager to direct, I don't know, 7 times, but I got promoted a bunch of times because I was just like pushing. But still, like it was a very few, not that many options, just because of where I started. Got that junior job. But
so you decide to leave, and how did you? Like, did you know what you wanted to do when you left? Was it like, I'm going to go write a book, I'm going to go start this business? Like, how did that fall into place?
Yeah, well, I think where I went was I was okay. I knew I wanted to start another business. And where I started was, okay, I'm going to start another tech company and raise money and be CEO. That's sort of along those lines. And probably be time for another day. We're running short on time here. Where what happened was, it's like all the expectations when I left, all the things I expected happened. None of that did. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, I'm not going to do sales consulting because I'm just tired of that. And I'm going to start a tech company, raise money, and be in Silicon Valley. And then, so I ended up like actually doing some sales consulting. And
did you kind of get sucked into that? Was it like people saw that you were so successful at this outbound, sales development, building that org? So I imagine you kind of that's kind of what I thought you were going to say, is like the market just sort of pulled you into it because everyone wants to learn from you. And did that evolve into maybe I should write a book? Maybe I should be speaking? And
Yeah, I mean, again, at the time Salesforce was big, but it wasn't like that. It was huge. And I don't think a lot of people, some people knew about what I had done there because I started blogging. It's back when blogging was actually banned at Salesforce, technically. So I don't remember when they opened it up.
Wow.
So I don't know. Like some people that I knew what I had done, but I hadn't really documented it. I hadn't published it as much yet. But got pulled in and worked at a venture firm for a bit. So long story short was kind of in reflecting after 6 months or so. I remember I was in Asia on a trip to see a friend. I was just reflecting on what I wanted to do and like, you know what? I don't want to raise money. I don't want to start a tech company. I don't want to. You sort of like I just flipped everything to like, well, I don't know what I want to do yet, but I know I want to do something I love and make as much money as I want. So like
And
make
you
as much
knew
money
what you
as I want to do what I
didn't
love.
want to do.
I didn't. I knew some things. I knew
Yeah.
where I didn't want to start. I was like, well, I kind of have to go explore and figure out what that is. And ended up doing sales consulting to pay the bills, part time for years while I was exploring. Like I created something called Unique Genius, helping people make money through enjoyment, and CEO Flow, which is my first book. And really, so that's again, there's a lot more to that. Just trying different things, and ultimately didn't come back to publishing the book and really doubling down on outbound prospecting, which was in 2011 until I got married and had kids. And again, that's the Impossible book, which for any entrepreneurs, if you're starting a company or a manager level, like the From Impossible to Inevitable book is probably a better one to start with. If you're, in an SDR, like a sales executive, the Predictable Revenue book is a better one. But the Impossible book, I talk about how I tried these different approaches, and that's kind of this whole thing around nailing a niche, my own experience, and seeing the same problem with so many companies, and having to get married and getting married in 2011, having to support a family. But I have to like amp up my income now,
right?
Because I have a family to support, and so really tripling down on outbound prospecting and publishing the book and making predictable revenue.
Was the goal with the
there.
book to like, I always ask people who write sales books, like, was the goal to make money off the book, or was the goal for the book to be really a marketing engine for everything else that you're going to do?
Marketing engine. I mean, I wanted to write the book and publish a book because that was just kind of in me. And I think what happened was I've been working on it, and that just helped make it happen. I had to pull the trigger and do it. I'd actually had a book deal leaving Salesforce with Wiley, which is a business publisher, in 2006. And I didn't act on it. And I think it would have been the wrong book. It wouldn't have been Predictable Revenue. It would have been a more boring, let's say, typical sales book. And by taking a few years to really kind of test the ideas and like pull out the, when you take out like the best, you take out the best and you kind of simplify it and you, I don't know, cook it in a way, bake the ideas for a few years. It turned into a much better book by taking a few extra years to do it. So I gotta
I know we're just about up on time. Do you want to just give a quick overview of what the predictable revenue business is and what you're offering?
Yeah, so the predictable revenue business today, it's really about outbound prospecting. So a lot of the businesses, if you want to do outbound prospecting, and it's for, in business to business companies, of course, and you don't want to build that program yourself, we offer like an SDR as a service program. So we can kind of staff and train and set you up with part of your remote team, outbound prospector or prospectors.
Do you have are you, in terms of customers you'll take on for that, are you very specific with the types of businesses you'll work with? Is it enterprise, SMB, or is it a good mix?
You just generally have to have probably at least a couple million of revenue. So you have something there that can grow, and a segment of customer that is at least lifetime value of like $20,000 and up.
Got it.
If you're if you're in a really competitive niche, thing is, like, we're not going to do that. Like, we have another side of the business, which is we show you how to do it, right? If you want to build your own team or fix it, we can show you how to stand up your own team and teach you how to, that it's comp and sequences and other things.
Is that like a consulting model, or is that like online training courses?
No, it's consulting, coaching, some training, but mostly consulting and coaching. And part of what that is if you are in a challenging market where outbound's not going to be a fit, we have ways to kind of like assess that and make other recommendations. It could include like not doing outbound, but that's part of our process. But I would say if you're new to all this, either the predictable revenue book or impossible book really will give you so much base information on how to think about outbound or think about growth before you start thinking about investing in a service or hiring people.
Got it. And where can people find the books? Are they available everywhere?
They're Amazon, yep. I'm sure there's links on predictablerevenue.com to them. But also fromimpossible.com is its own landing page where you can get a free chapter from that book. So
Cool.
fromimpossible.com is a good place to start. Or, Amazon's got all the Kindle versions, audio versions, and hardback and everything else.
Awesome. Aaron, I feel like it's never enough time with us. Like we could just talk forever, but we did give away 20 minutes of free parenting advice from Uncle Colin and Papa Ross. So hopefully people enjoy that. It was good to catch up with you, man. Is anything last you want to drop in? Any other things you're working on?
No, man, I know it's a tough time in the world for lots of people. And I'd say that if you're feeling burnout or depression and angst and everything else, you're not alone. There's I don't know, a third. There's just huge swaths of people out there that experience that. People in my own family feel that. I get burned out every once in a while here, and it's a regular thing that comes and goes. And you just got to keep every day getting through it and make yourself a little bit better, tackling one extra thing and embracing. I say embrace the turmoil or embrace the shit, and you can come out the other side in a better place if you do that versus try to avoid it.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to make changes this year. I know my life, God, if I look back 6 months ago, I don't even recognize my life anymore, but, and I'm making bigger changes. I know I'm not happy in the city, to your point. People are stressed, we're getting depressed. I'm sitting in this tiny apartment in New York. I don't have an office to go to. You can't go date. No one's going and dating with masks on and stuff. I'm a single guy. So I'm getting out of this city. Don't be afraid to make changes and just kind of reset your life as we go into the new year.
That's exactly.
Aaron,
right.
It's always a pleasure. We'll have to catch up soon. There's still always more to talk about, but thanks for taking time.
Yeah.
And take care. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the holidays, the new year, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, my friend.
Take care. Bye, Aaron.